Okay. Okay. Telling people you've started a video. Here we go. Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing on this Thursday? Oh, wait, where? Well, hold on. There we go. There's my G. Okay. Okay. Hi! Oh, hi, sisters.
Oh, it's our sister.
That was a real nice, tricky little surprise
I know, I
to be
tricked
there.
you, didn't I? She was
Guys,
just walking the dog and she came in and I was like,
good. Hi, Abby.
Sophia, how are you? I love you. I miss you.
I love and I miss you.
Are you doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I mean, it's up and down, and I was telling Glenn, and we were FaceTiming right before this. I was just saying that, like, for the first 2 weeks I had low grade panic,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got sad, and then I just sat in the house and wept.
Mm.
I think because I was so mad, which was the panic. And then I think I needed to let out the feelings. And then now I'm alternating between resting and then organizing things.
that's such a good sign of hope.
I'm gonna get to the garage next week, I think.
I
I
went
keep
into the
saying
garage
myself.
today and I tried to start, and then I went, I'm not ready. And I closed
Also,
the door.
we could have a t-shirt made that says, I'm going to get to the garage next week. Because I feel like we've been saying that for
Every week.
a decade.
Okay, I'll let you guys go. I love you, Sophia. Take
I love
the
you.
care of my girl.
Bye, bye, bye.
And can you take the dog? Because she, okay. Bye, honey.
Hi.
Here we are. Thank you for having
Made
me.
it. Thank
have
you
the
for
most
being here.
beautiful, fierce, and tender community because they're like you, and I follow you and watch your community so carefully, and I'm just thankful that you're trusting me with them.
Well, I'm thankful to be here. Guys, for everyone who's tuning in, as many of you know, unless you've been living under a rock, but also it's a pandemic, so if you have, who can blame you? My sister, Glennon Doyle, has released her latest book. This is it. It's called Untamed. I had to take my book jacket off because I carry this around with me like a security blanket. It's like it's annotated and folded, and I can't give books to anyone because everything looks like this everywhere.
Oh, so
So I had to take my book jacket off, but it's behind you. It's that brightly colored, beautiful thing, and then on the inside.
look at the cover, so
Yeah.
doesn't it look? This amazing woman designed it. I feel like this is an X-ray of my insides.
Yeah. Glitter and war paint and warm things. So, guys, I invited Glennon to come here, or rather asked, and was thrilled that she accepted my invitation because we're supposed to be on your book tour, and now we're locked in our houses. And so our thought was we could bring a book tour to you. And I also realized I needed you to bring your book tour to me because you are one of the people who always makes me feel as deeply seen and known and okay as I am, and like everything's gonna be okay. You have a very special skill. It's true. So I want to talk to you about this book, but first I feel like maybe we should tell people how we know each other, just in case they've never been, on one of our speaking tours or whatever. So how long ago was that? Was it 5 years now?
I think it's got to be 5 years.
5 years ago,
yeah.
You started this incredible live event series called the Together Tour. And you asked me to come and speak on the Together Tour in Chicago. And I remember going from work to the auditorium, the theater that we were at, and being in this dressing room, and you came in and you took your shoes off and you jumped on the couch with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's my people.
I hate shoes so much. I feel like they are foot coffins. And I just never, right now, I never have shoes on. I take them off the second I can. But Yeah, I just the second we met, I just knew we were going to collect each other. Like we were just going to be people. We're going to be sisters. It just was so obvious to me. You know, when you just know.
Yeah. Yeah, when it just happens.
Yeah.
And we had this really special conversation that night about, you know, where we were in our lives. I was let in on a little bit of a secret because I already knew Abby. And that night I learned that you knew and loved Abby. And the world didn't know you were in love yet. And it was so exciting and cool. And then I just would refresh Instagram every day. I was like, is today going to be the day? When's going to be the day? When's going to be the day that they tell everyone? And
that must be one of the reasons why Abby and I feel so bonded to you. And I haven't thought about that recently until you said that, but it's because you were one of the only, I mean, it was like you, me, Abby, and Liz Gilbert. That was it. And my sister, you know, that knew in the beginning.
It was so cool.
Oh,
I'll never forget when Abby called me and she was like, you're doing the Together tour with my girl. And I was like, dude, Glennon's so cool. Like, definitely in my soul, I already know she's my girl. And she was like, no, Soph. She's like, she's my girl. And I was like, wait, what?
Oh, that still makes me like, oh,
it was so cutie. It was so cutie. And yeah, we have this little like triangular trifecta of support. Almost, you know, I just realized like a stool has to have 3 legs to hold up a person. We're kind of like a really good stool.
Yeah, we're a stool.
Yeah.
We're a stool.
A step stool, a step ladder. We're always here for the support and a leg up. So before we get into the book, I do just want to talk about what's going on. Because, you know, we mentioned like, this is hard. This is a weird time. And I'm just curious for you. You are a person who so many people look to for guidance and for hope and for the next right step. And what is this like for you?
Well, I mean, I think there's 2 major things going on. And one is just the absolute staggering, unbelievable loss that people are going through. I mean, through our nonprofit, through Together Rising, we spend all day reading stories from people, and the stories that we're getting in our inbox right now about people who suddenly, you know, they're losing loved ones and they're not able to say goodbye. They are losing jobs, they're losing dreams and plans and hope, and everybody has lost the life they had before, right? Regardless of how deep or dramatic your personal loss is. So there's all this real pain going outside.
Yeah.
And then at the very same time, we are stuck in our houses, right? So what I think is happening and why we're all so exhausted and confused and we feel so weird in our homes is because we are so used to the distraction of everyday life to keep us from our feelings and to keep us from our humanity and to keep us from, you know, the real truth of life, which is that we are all really super vulnerable and that at the end of the day, all we have is our health and each other. That's always true, but it's just like we're those snow globes that we keep ourselves shaken up all the time, so we never have to like sit with the hard truth of things. And right now,
it's like, oh, that hurts. Look what I can do over there. I can go there. I can go see a movie. I can get a frozen yogurt. Like, it's easy to be out.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as like, do you remember those Staples commercials where they'd have the red easy buttons?
Yeah.
Like, so every time you start to feel your hot loneliness of being human, you can just like easy button your way out with like, you know, food, booze, sex, busyness, like snark, whatever it is, shopping, scroll. But right now, like the pain of being human is just, whoop. It's like a collective great settling of the snow globe, right? Which is incredible. It reminds me very much of early sobriety. Right?
Really? How so?
Yeah, because getting sober, man, is just a settling of the snow globe. It's all of a sudden, all of your distractions and all of the things you use to keep your snow globe shaken up are taken away from you. And so you know, I remember going to my 5th AA meeting on my 6th day of sobriety after having been completely lost to alcohol and food addiction for 15 years and sitting in this circle and finally being brave enough to speak. And I remember saying, hi, I'm Glennon, I'm an alcoholic. I hate everything. Like, I feel awful. I think being a human is so hard, and I feel like I'm missing some kind of secret that everyone else has that's making life easier for everyone else than it is for me. That's all. And this woman came and sat down next to me at the end of the meeting, and she said, I just want to tell you something that someone told me in the beginning of sobriety, which is that life doesn't feel hard right now because you're doing it wrong. Life feels hard right now because you're finally doing it right, right? Because you're finally feeling all of your feelings. And the thing is that if there's any secret to life, it's just that doing it the right way, feeling all of your feelings, is really hard. That's why so few people do it, right? But regardless, all feelings are for feeling, even the hard ones. And I'm Sophia, like, it sounds so simple, but before that meeting, I didn't know that all feelings were for feeling. Like, we live in a culture that's so obsessed with happiness all the time. Happy, happy, be happy. I thought that happiness was for feeling, and that pain and anger and envy and all of that was for numbing and deflecting. Yeah. Right? Like, I thought that meant that failure. Pain is failure. And so what sobriety teaches you is that, you know, life after the snow has settled, like we have right now collectively, hurts a lot. It hurts so freaking bad. Okay, this is why so few people live soberly, which, by the way, does not just mean without alcohol. It means like facing life on its own terms, right? It means like not abandoning yourself by abandoning pain all the time with all the easy buttons. That's all that means. And it sucks, to tell you the damn truth. It's like really hard. And I feel bad a lot of the time. And I probably take more naps than the average bear, okay? But there's this reward to it. And I think, Sophia, that this moment in time is so confusing and so painful and so awful. And I also think there's great opportunity in it. Because people are feeling, right? People are stuck in their humanity, in their feeling. And what happens with pain is that it changes us 100% of the time. So when we don't transport ourselves out of our pain transforms us, right? When we transport ourselves out, we miss all our transformation. When we don't transport ourselves out, grief to me is like, it's like a cocoon, okay? It's like a place we settle into that just freaking obliterates everything we were, right? It's dark and it fucking hurts and it's miserable and confusing. You don't know what's going to come next. And then all of a sudden there's an after and you are completely freaking different. And I really think, I mean, this is an awful time and I'm scared and sad. I mean, I'm already clinically depressed and anxious. Okay, so I don't really need an effing pandemic. I just don't need it, right? I'm already...
You're like, I'm good, I'm full.
I'm already like Tigger and Eeyore at the exact same time. That's what it's like to be clinically anxious and depressed. But because I've dealt with those things my whole life, I know that there's an after, right? We are going to come out of this different. I know that I've never felt more connected to the whole world. Like I could weep constantly about, I feel the loss. I know you do. So you're like, my God, your heart is so, I know you're feeling the same way. I mean, I feel so connected to other people. I feel like I have seen people more vulnerably than I've ever seen them before, right? Even in all these Zooms we're doing, I'm seeing people who were acting so proper and perfect in my life, and now they have kids crawling all over them and spaghetti hanging off them, and they're screaming at their dogs. It's like, okay. So because there were no good eating disorder clinics where I lived, I was actually sent to a mental hospital in my senior year in high school, okay? And whenever I mention that,
so crazy.
People are like, I know, isn't that wild? People are like, they get like quiet and they're like, oh, because I think they think that would be a moment of shame or pain for me, but I freaking loved the mental hospital, okay? First of all, because my parents were teachers, so they had insurance, so I got to go to a good place. But also because it was the first place I had ever been where I didn't have to act and perform. I was in high school, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A mental hospital is way less crazy than effing high school. Like, high school is freaking Lord of the Flies shit, right? Like,
Yeah,
in
it's
terms of,
dark.
oh. So, and the reason why I love the mental hospital is because everybody got to be honest there. Because if you were in the mental hospital, the jig is up, right? Nobody's going to be like, so how are you? And you're like, fine, I'm
Great.
nailing it. I am
Yeah.
nailing it, right? Like, no, the jig is up. And right now, and that's relaxing, you know, you can finally just say your shit because you're obviously there, all right? You got some issues.
Yeah, when someone says, how are you? You're like, not great, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you
That's
think
how
I
am.
am? Right.
How are
But
you?
that's how I feel like right now. Like we have the jig is up moment, right? The jig
Yeah.
is up. Nobody's nailing this. Like we are all completely faced with our vulnerability and our pain, and it's going to change us. We're going to come out of this new in the after.
Mm. Mm. When you think about that, like staying in the painful place, because that's the transformation. It's interesting because, you know, and I said to you, like, this is it now. Now I reread it, and I had a call with one of my best friends last night, and I read chapters of your book aloud on FaceTime. I was like, hold on, just let me read to you about Erica's. This is really important. I was like, let me go back. And it reminds me because many years ago when I read our other friend's incredible sort of soul Bible of a book, Cheryl Strayed's Tiny Beautiful Things, there's a chapter in that book called The Obliterated Place, where she wrote to this father who had lost his son, and it's like it destroys me. And I read that again the other night, and I think about that because she says that the thing that people see as sacred in her writing is the obliterated place where she lost her mom. That's where she touches that sort of divinity of that relationship. And when I think about your explanations of how we have to be in the painful place to be transformed by it and come out of it, I know that that's true. My favorite thing about your writing is that you say all the things that some part of me knows are true, but I didn't have the words for before I read you write them.
That's my favorite thing you could say.
Ooh,
Because
it's
if
like
anything's true, we all know it.
we
right?
know.
We know it. If it's true, we already know it. Yeah.
And it's so, because you're like, oh, that's a thing that I know somewhere, and something out here made me forget. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we talk so much about how, especially for women, we're put in these boxes, and it's like, well, you know, you better have an opinion, but don't be too loud because then you're too smart, and then you're not pretty. But if you're too pretty, then you're a whore. And then if you're this or that, no matter what it is, no matter what we are, we're told we should be the other thing. And when we go over there to be the other thing, we're told the other thing is actually over there. And it's a rat race.
Almost like it's unwinnable.
It's so weird that it would be
almost like
right?
It's set up that way.
But I'm so curious, because when we talk about the transformation is the reward. You know, it's the thing that we get. And I wonder, how do you define that? How do you explain what the reward is for feeling all your feelings, and what advice would you give people who are maybe right now in the painful place and don't know what to do with it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it hurts so much and we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and this is and that's the beauty of this time, because there's nothing to do with it. We can't do shit, right? Like, that's why it almost feels like none of this is purposeful, I don't believe, but like the opportunity that's inherent with it is huge. Because Sophia, my sister, went through an unbelievable, totally shocking divorce, like just came to us from out of the blue, like a while back. And I put this story in Untamed. And she was in so much pain. And I think that having your best friend go through grief is harder than going through it yourself, because you just want to fix it so bad, because we are a culture who does not trust pain. we do not trust pain. Okay. We are a consumer culture that is taught over and over again, like, you need to be happy all the time, and happiness can be bought, right? You're not depressed and sad and anxious because life is depressing and sad and anxiety producing. You're depressed because you don't have these countertops, right? And you don't have these jeans, and you don't have her house, and you don't have her ass, and you don't have her. And then we keep like, okay, maybe that's why I'm uncomfortable in my humanity. Maybe I just need that thing. Maybe I just need that, because, you know, women who feel less than will buy more, right? And it's an excellent way to run an economy, right? To continuously make us feel like shit and make us feel like happiness is one item away. I do it all the time. I mean, Sophia, if you could see my bathroom right now, the millions of bottles of potions that are on my counter. I've maybe bought 4 trillion bottles of shit for my face, and every time I buy it, I'm like, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is the one that's going to change my life.
Every time I buy a pair of shoes or a pair of jeans, I'm like, well, that's the one that's going to make me dress as cool as like that person who's my style icon, obviously.
And it's always, and it never works.
No.
It never works, right? We keep doing it. We keep trying to consume our way to happiness, but it's just an easy button because you can never get enough of what you never needed, right? So the point of this is, my sister comes to my home. She starts to live in my basement, okay? I have this little guest room in the basement. And every night she comes home from work and she's in such deep grief, and she tries to have dinner with us, and then she goes downstairs, walks down the stairs, and then she stays in the guest room all night. So one night I follow her down and I have a cup of tea and I'm trying to bring it to her, and I'm about to open the door and I hear her just weeping alone by herself in this room. And something inside of me understood that I was not supposed to go inside there. That the process of grief that she was going through was singular. That grief is like, it's just a dark guest room in a basement, and nobody can get to you there, like not even your sister, you know? So I started this thing where every night she would go downstairs, and then I would take my tea and I would just sit on the floor outside her door and just sit there just for an hour and a half every single night. And I don't know why, it was just like this holding vigil. Like, I can't get to her, but at least I can sit here and make sure that nothing else can get to her while she grieves. Months and months and months later, my sister I watch her, we help her pack up, and she walks out the front door and she quits her corporate job and she moves to Rwanda to use her law degree to prosecute child sex offenders. And then she did amazing things there, and then she came home and she married the love of her life, with whom she is building this unbelievable family. But I used to walk by that door, that basement door, and look at it long after she had moved out, and I would think, oh my God, that room was a cocoon, right? That she was transforming in there. And the reason why she was able to use her grief to become, I mean, the only definition that I can think of for being human is that we are here to become truer and more beautiful versions of ourselves, right?
Yes.
Until we
Say it
die
again.
forever.
They repeat it for the people.
That we are here to continuously keep becoming truer and more beautiful versions of ourselves, okay? Forever and ever. And what I believe to be true is that pain is the fuel that we use to continue becoming true and more beautiful, right? That it's like being alive is like alchemy, right? And pain is the furnace that we sit in to keep becoming more and more and more golden. And when you constantly refuse to sit in the fire, you just don't become. That's the reward, right? That's why you have never seen somebody walk into a room and they've blown you away with their presence and their power, and they've been like, well, I've had a pretty easy life. No bumps. Never.
Yeah.
Right? Because people who emanate light are the people who've been through the burning over and over and over again. And they're also, here's the other thing, Sophia. I'm in pain all the time, okay? I'm fearful all the time. I'm anxious quite often. I get depressed, all the things. So I have not eliminated pain from my life, and I never will, but I have eliminated the fear of pain, okay? Because when you sit inside the pain, like we are all having right now, when you stop avoiding it, what you learn is that you can take it. This is what we will learn. We will be in this great pain in our homes. We will lose people. We will lose dreams. We will lose jobs. We will lose and lose and lose. And we will make it. We will make it through, right? And afterwards, we will be a little bit less afraid of the other shoe dropping. We will not live in as much fear because the other shoe dropped. And it changed us, and we lost, and we all became truer and more beautiful versions of ourselves, right? So, I mean, I guess my advice would just be still with it, right? And avoid all the messages of hustle right now. If I hear one more person tell me that I should use this freaking time to learn jujitsu or like Marie Kondo my house or like whatever the hell, I think that all of these hustle messages is just more snow. And it's going to keep us from focusing not on the outer crap, but on the inner work that's happening right now. And all we have to do to allow that inner work to happen is surrender.
I feel like, just to be, I feel like all this pressure to be productive during this, I'm like, well, all that means is that you want me to distract myself with something so that I won't notice that before you were telling me to distract myself with other stuff. And what you're hoping is that if I can stay distracted during this, then the minute that this is over and we all go back to work, I'll go back to buying stuff to be distracted from the other stuff.
It's almost like the hustle messages are all from a consumer culture that wants you to be continuously never think you're good enough, always be distracted, and P.S., most importantly, distract you from your discontent, your pain, and your anger. Because you know what? People who let themselves feel the horror of humanity, you know how they end up? They end up angry. And you know what angry people tend to demand? Change, right? So it is very important for our freaking culture to not allow us to pay close attention, think hard, sit with all of this, and get really fucking pissed, right? At the way our systems are set up and who they are meant to serve and who they don't serve and who they have always left out. So that's another piece of advice. It's just like, Sophia, you and I were talking earlier about how exhausting anger is. And that's okay. We should be angry. Yeah. Right? But I think that women are trained to be ashamed of their anger. Yes. Right? Would you say that?
Well, and there's a lot of don't be so angry. Why are you so angry? And you know why I'm angry? Because it was reported today that the White House was briefed on Corona in November. We could have ordered ventilators and PPE. We could have protected our healthcare workers. We could have protected supply chains. We could have stomped on the curve the way New Zealand is. Jacinda Ardern, anybody notice that where there's women leaders, they're doing just fine with this because moms know how to manage a virus? Thank you very much. I mean, God, am I mad? And yeah, I'm upset. I'm upset that because the leader of this country didn't want to threaten his precious economy, he didn't protect people.
Also, to be fair, he doesn't give a shit about the economy.
Well,
he wants to protect the economy so he can protect his reelection because people will vote for the economy. He doesn't give a shit about anything. He doesn't give a shit about anything except himself.
Yeah.
But I just hope that you are a unique breed of human. Abby and I talk about this a lot, in that you are able to stay and stay at the same time.
I told people not to call me for 1 hour and then I got a call.
Oh. No, I was just saying that you are able to stay angry and stay tender at the exact same time. And that is your magic. I don't know how you do it so freaking beautifully. But what I do hope is that you allow yourself to stay angry.
Oh, yeah.
Forever.
Oh, I will.
Right?
That's never going anywhere.
No,
People who
because
can't handle it, I'm like, then get out.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Because it's such a pervasive message to every marginalized group. Whether it's women, whether it's people of color, Black women especially, like, don't be angry. Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? And it's just so obvious, right? Like, power would have to teach us every time that we're angry to think, what's wrong with me? I mean, Sophia, every time I'm doing speaking event, every single time, all the times, when we get to the Q&A, somebody raises their hand and says, I'm struggling with my anger. I'm just so angry all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Can
Do
I?
women ask you that all the time?
Oh, all the time. And I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. That's what's right with you. And you know who I learned those words from, Glennon? You. That's what's right
I was like,
with you.
I don't even remember saying that. Like, that sounds good.
It's true. And I want to do something. Please don't be embarrassed. I want to read a little bit from the book right now because this is important. No, this is important.
Okay.
This is in the chapter that I was referencing, Erica's, which also makes me laugh because well, you guys at home don't know this, but I send Glennon videos a lot because I know how much you hate a phone call. So I don't want to startle you with your phone ringing. So I make you a video. So it's like a voicemail on a FaceTime, basically.
And that's what you need to know about Sophia Bush. That's how uniquely she sees people and loves people. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's a perfect example. She knows that it scares me when the phone rings.
I know.
So she sends me personalized love messages.
But in this chapter, which you opened about how horrible it was that your friend called you, you got to this really incredible point where you talk about how she had made a commitment to herself for herself. And within a week, that was over. And she said, well, who was I kidding? You know, I'm a mom and a wife and I have a career and I don't have time for this thing for me. And you said, well, you said, why do women find it honorable to dismiss ourselves? Why do we decide that denying our longing is the responsible thing to do? Why do we believe that what will thrill and fulfill us will hurt our people? Why do we mistrust ourselves so completely? And here's why. Because our culture was built upon and benefits from the control of women. The way power justifies controlling a group is by conditioning the masses to believe that group cannot be trusted. So the campaign to convince us to mistrust women begins early, and it comes from everywhere. When we are little girls, our families, teachers, and peers insist that our loud voices, bold opinions, strong feelings, anger, are too much and unladylike, so we learn not to trust our personalities. Childhood stories promise us that girls who dare to leave the path or explore get attacked by big bad wolves and pricked by deadly spindles, so we learn not to trust our curiosity. I have the chills. I've read this 7 times and I have the chills. The beauty industry convinces us that our thighs, frizz, skin, fingernails, lips, eyelashes, leg hair, and wrinkles are repulsive and must be covered and manipulated, so we learn not to trust the bodies that we live in. Diet culture promises us that controlling our appetite is the key to our worthiness, so we learn not to trust our own hunger. Politicians insist that our judgment about our bodies and figures cannot be trusted, so our own reproductive systems must be controlled by lawmakers we don't know in places we have never been. The legal system proves to us again and again that even our own memories and experiences will not be trusted. If 20 women come forward and say he did it, and he says, no, I didn't, they will believe him while discounting and maligning us every time. And religion, sweet Jesus, the lesson of Adam and Eve, the first formative story I was told about God and a woman was this: when a woman wants more, she defies God, betrays her partner, curses her family, and destroys the world. We weren't born distrusting and fearing ourselves. That was part of our taming. We were taught to believe that who we are in our natural state is bad and dangerous. They convinced us to be afraid of ourselves. So we don't honor our body's curiosity, hunger, judgment, experience, or ambition. Instead, we lock away our true selves. Women who are best at this disappearing earn the highest praise. She is so selfless. Can you imagine? The epitome of womanhood is to lose oneself completely. That's every way I ever felt and didn't know the words. And this thing, when this truth is the thing that when we wonder what to do with our anger, how can I get out of pain? We were taught to mistrust these things. That's not how it's supposed to be. And this goes on, and you say, I'm going to skip a little because I don't want to waste too much time reading your own words, which you wrote, so obviously you know what they say. But you talk about when you quit trying to control your anger, and you said, when I quit, I learned that my anger never meant that there was something wrong with me. It meant that there was something wrong out there, something I might have the power to change. I stopped being a quiet peacekeeper, and I started being a loud peacemaker. My anger was good. And then you say, we only control what we don't trust. Love is the opposite of control. Love demands trust. What the world needs is masses of women who are entirely out of control. Goodbye.
Isn't that the thing that they try to tell us? Like, you're out of control. Like, thank you. That's the goal.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the goal, is to be completely out of your control. Right?
Does realizing that being out of control, not just obeying, not making yourself small, not distrusting yourself, listening to yourself, to your knowing, which you also write about, does that do a thing that I think we might not think it would, which is the idea of I'm out of control can feel scary, but does being this kind of out of control actually make you feel more calm?
It's what faith is to me. And it's so interesting, Sophia, because I had to, and I don't think everybody has to do that, but I had to completely untame myself from religion in order to find a real faith. And for me, that is because, and I believe that the divine, the higher power, can be found in religion, in churches. But I think that religion is often the hardest place to find the faith that I'm talking about, because the first lesson, like for example, fundamentalist Christianity, that I was born into, the first lesson is you cannot trust yourself. That's the first lesson. Like, your heart is wicked. Do not lean on your own understanding. Right? So what that does is that completely cuts you off from the inner knowing. So I call it the knowing, or God. Some people call it intuition. Whatever you call it, doesn't matter what you call it, but I think that you call it, right? Everything depends on you calling that voice inside of you that will guide you the whole way through your life, because we have to stop asking other people for directions to places they've never been, right? Each of us is living a singular, unrepeatable, unprecedented life. Nobody has ever lived the life that you are living, before you or after you, right? So nobody knows what you should do. Not a minister, not a teacher, not an author, not a parent, not a friend. Nobody knows what you should do. So that's the scary news. But the good news is that everybody knows what they should do. Every time a woman says to me, I don't know what to do, I always think, yes, you do. You just don't want to do the thing you know to do because it's hard and scary. Right? So, right? So we call 60 of our friends and we're like, do you know what we should do? Do you know what I should know? They don't even know what they should do, right? But we always know what to do. And that is faith to me. I feel whatever this out of control thing is, we're in somebody's control all the time. If you're not trusting yourself, you're trusting somebody, right? If you're not trusting your own knowing, you're trusting somebody's knowing. And quite likely, if you're living by default to another person's knowing, it's very likely that knowing was planted inside of you for a reason, often to control you. For example, I almost did not honor the great love of my life. Like, I almost did not allow myself to be with Abby.
Mm.
And that is because at the time I was in a bad marriage with a good man. Okay. And that is a hard place to be for a woman because we are taught to just be grateful for good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I decided, well, I can't do this because I was taught that a good mother does not break her children's hearts. Right. That a good mother protects her children from pain at all costs.
But that goes so far in your case to say, if I'm going to be a good mom, I have to stay with my husband, who's a good man, but not a good husband, who is a good father, but who cheated on me as his wife for our entire relationship.
Right.
It
Right.
cut
So,
that deep for you as a mom.
oh, but yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. I mean, the pressure on mothers to martyr themselves is like no cultural pressure. I mean, this whole book is about cultural pressure and how to get free of it. The mother pressure, 10 times worse than any of the other kinds. And I've been in mental hospitals for eating disorders that were culturally put on me. So I'm just like, I've felt them all. Okay.
Yeah.
But one day I was braiding Tishy's hair, you know, the middle one, the really sensitive one. And I remember looking at her and thinking, oh my God, I am staying in this marriage for her. But would I want this marriage for her? And if I would not want this marriage for my little girl, why am I modeling bad love for her and calling that good mothering?
Mm.
Right? And the reason why I was doing that is because I was tamed, conditioned, programmed to believe that a good mother is a martyr. That what a mother does is she just slowly disappears forever. She just buries her needs, her ambition, her dreams, her being, right, in honor of her children, right? What a terrible legacy. Like, what a burden for the children of martyr mothers to bear, right? To know that they are the reason their mother stopped living. To know that one day, if they have children, they'll have to do the same thing. Because if we hold up martyrdom as the epitome of love, that's what our children will keep striving for. Which is why Carl Jung said there is no burden greater for a child to bear than the unlived life of a parent.
Ooh.
Right? So what becoming untamed means, all it means so is figuring out what are these roots, these beliefs that have been planted beneath us
Yeah.
that we never chose, right? They were just the air we breathed. And they were planted beneath us to control us, and they are controlling us. They are keeping us from growing as big and strong and wide and beautiful as we were meant to be. So what we have to do is rip those beliefs out. Like the idea that a good mother is a martyr. No, 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 no. A good mother is a model, right? Our children will only allow themselves to live as fully as we allow ourselves to live. So our duty is not to slowly die for our kids, but to show them how to bravely live, right? Our duty is to not settle, to never settle for a conversation, a relationship, a community, a nation less beautiful than the one we would want for our babies. That's it, right? So it's just this process of ripping out. What was I taught a good girl does? What was I taught makes a good woman, right? What was I taught makes a good Christian? Well, and if you're a woman and you make those lists, all of them are going to say in a million different ways, disappear, 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 disappear. All of them. Be as small as possible. Get smaller and smaller in body, in mind, in voice, in ambition.
Yeah.
And so once you pull them out, you start to live an examined life. And you plant your own damn roots, and then you start growing. And the fruit of your life becomes recognizable to you.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I had to learn my version of that lesson in a really toxic relationship in my 20s. I had to learn that my version of this lesson in the professional sphere in a really toxic job where for so long I was like, well, no, not what's happening to me at work every day is not okay and is also illegal, but there's these 200 people whose jobs depend on me, and what am I going to do? Be difficult, be a loud girl, cause problems that could affect them? It's just me, really. So if I'm suffering, it's okay. I can suffer because I can support all these people while I suffer, because I have to be a good leader and make sure that these people get to provide. And I had to rip all those roots up of being a good girl and a tugboat and the team leader and all those things, all that stuff that had been put upon me and made me feel like it was my responsibility to be small and quiet so that the show could go on.
And not be difficult, and just be grateful,
Mm-hmm.
and don't ask for more.
Oh, heaven forbid, especially if you are lucky enough to be working on a television show or lucky enough to have a big writing career and a family. How dare you ask for more when what you're really asking for is less expectation, less pressure. You just want to be able to breathe.
Yeah. I mean, women are taught to be so afraid of what we want, right? Every time when I hear you talking, it's what we want, what I want. And we are we are taught to be ashamed of and afraid of our desires, right?
Yeah.
We go for what we want. We're not allowed to what we want. That would be selfish. We're supposed to be selfless. I can't have what I want. But you and I both have been listening to women. My main job, I think, is just to listen deeply to women. I pretty much think that's my job. And I have been listening to what women deeply want for a decade now. And when I tell you that what women want, I mean, what women tell me they want is, I want a freaking minute to take a deep breath, right? I want to be able to rest. I want good food and good sleep and good sex, right? I want to find my purpose on this earth and use it and unleash it now, here in this life, right? I want to be loved, and I want to love deeply and wildly. I want to be seen, and I want to really see other people. I want health and safety and enough food for my children and for all children. I want to look at the news and my family and my community and see more love and less pain. What women want is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? The blueprints of heaven are in the deepest desires of women. Right? The desires of women should be the entire world's marching order. And so what I think is interesting is, in all of these lies we get, there's just a little bit of truth. There's enough truth to make the lies keep spinning, okay? So what women want is beautiful, but what women want is dangerous, right? We're taught that we're dangerous, and what women want is dangerous. It's just not dangerous to us or to our people. It's dangerous as shit to status quo, right?
To the system.
To the system, to every system. That's why we have to be afraid of our fears. Because if women actually returned to ourselves, trusted ourselves, and went for what we wanted, imbalanced relationships would be equalized, right? Families would be healed. Unjust institutions would just crumble.
Yes.
Corrupt governments would topple, right?
Yes.
Wars would end. The entire world as we know it would end. And that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want to happen. So that we can rebuild relationships and families and institutions and nations that are built on equality and justice.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't just trust your desires? Like, trust your deepest desires. Right?
Yeah.
And so every time I say trust your desires, somebody says, this woman raised her hand at an event and said, I can't just go around trusting what I want. Like, I want to have a bottle of Malibu every night. Should I trust that? And I was like, okay, look, first of all, no, you don't trust that, or you wouldn't have asked me, first of all, okay?
Yeah.
And second of all, the bottle of Malibu is not your deepest desire, okay? Your deepest desire is underneath the bottle of Malibu. the thing is that we live in a capitalistic culture, right? So the job of capitalism is to identify the deepest desires of humanity and then attach a product to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So like the jeans and the sweaters and the whatever, we just want to be cool and we want to belong. We just all want that, but we just think the sweater's going to do it, right? So
Right.
when you're just like craving the bottle of Malibu to pass out every day, what you want, your deepest desire is beneath the Malibu. It's what the Malibu represents. You just want to fucking rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just want to break.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm not talking about like the surface desires. I'm talking about the desire beneath the desire beneath the desire, which can always be trusted.
The root desire that you're looking to medicate because you're not getting it, and the medication is the numbing. You got to go under the numbing. Under.
Yeah, I want to escape my life. Okay, I want a life that I don't have to escape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't have to escape from. And I think that's like, I think part of this book is scary for people because it's like, once you admit that you can imagine more, right? Once you admit that you have a longing, that you long for more, whether it's in your life or your relationships or in your world, it's scary to admit that you have a longing because then you might have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? So what I always tell people is like, if you think that you have a longing, I love the exercise of this, which is people are always telling me what they can't do. Like, I can't do that. There's a lot of can and can't, and then there's a lot of should. I shouldn't do that. I'm supposed to do this. That's not the right thing to do. Right and wrong, can and can't, should and shouldn't, supposed to, all of these things. Okay. So those kinds of words are like words from our mind, okay? And our mind is completely socially programmed, right? We are like a matrix up here, and none of us can quite take the blue pill. Like we've already been completely programmed. So when women start talking to me about like, I should and shouldn't, I can and can't, this is right, this is wrong, I always say, okay. Like one woman was saying her marriage is miserable. She loves her husband so much, but they can't connect anymore. They're just fading, they're falling apart. But I can't leave, and he shouldn't do this, and I should do this, and it's wrong, it'd be wrong for me to, So I said, okay, stop all that language. Can you tell me a story about the truest, most beautiful marriage you can imagine? Okay. There's something about what should I do? What shouldn't I do? What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do that activates all of our bullshit?
Yeah.
And there is something about asking somebody to tell you a story about the most true and beautiful life they can imagine, the most true and beautiful job they can imagine, the most true and beautiful relationship they can imagine, the most true and beautiful community they can imagine. It's like the can and can't language pulls up all of the excuses, and the true and beautiful language pulls out a story, right? So what I would say to people who are admitting that there's a longing there is don't worry about the shoulds and can'ts and just write down a story of the truest, most beautiful thing you can imagine. Because Sophia, you and I both know as artists that your imagination is where your destiny lives, right? It's not out there. We cannot look out there for what's possible. If we look out here for what's possible, we will only keep getting what we've always gotten, right? Our imagination, that thing inside of you, that longing, imagination is not where we go to escape reality. It's where we go to discover the truest reality that was meant for us, that when we're brave enough to put into words and actions can become our reality on the outside, right? So I think the true and beautiful language just activates that imagination, and then out comes this story, which is kind of the blueprint that you were born with.
Yeah.
And then you can just let it live for a while. You can tell yourself you don't have to do anything about it. Just get it on paper. But I think the truest, most beautiful life, it kind of comes to life one dimension at a time, right? It's like an architect doesn't just go from dreaming up a building to building it, right? The architect has to have the dream, then put it on paper, and it starts to come to life one dimension at a time. So that would be my advice, is just write it out. Write a story about the truest, most beautiful life you can imagine.
Is that a piece of advice you would offer to people now as maybe a place to start to cope with what's happening in the world, or to envision what might happen beyond this, to sit down and write the truest, most beautiful story?
I think that's the opportunity now, Soph, because right now is the time when none of us can pretend anymore.
Yeah.
We're stuck with ourselves, right? We're stuck with all of the dreams we didn't put into action. We're stuck with the flaws in our relationship, which become very effing apparent in quarantine. We're stuck with all of the truth, okay?
Yeah.
Right? It's becoming more and more difficult to pretend we don't have discontent. I think it is, and I don't think it has to be world stuff. I mean, our world is just made up of all of our different lives and relationships and homes.
Yeah.
Right? So I can't imagine a better time to start allowing yourself to admit that you could dream up something more true and more beautiful.
Yeah. That feels like a nice place to start. And I want to make sure we don't get cut off, because did you know Instagram kicks you off of a live after 1 hour?
That has happened to me.
I learned that the hard way. So people are asking, obviously, everyone needs to read this book. It is called Untamed. I'm going to put the bookshop link to it in my Instagram bio after we're done with this. So give it 2 minutes, guys, and then you can order the book there. There's truly nothing that I could recommend more to do with your quarantine. You don't have to learn to make a souffle cake, but you should read this book.
Amen. My truest, most beautiful life does not include making souffle cake.
Me neither.
It never will.
It's never going to be me. And that's
Sophia, before we get kicked off, I need to tell you that I am so grateful for the way that you show up for the whole world, but for women, there's just, you guys don't know, like, there's not a lot of women who show up for other women the way Sophia does. It's consistent, and it's obvious, and it's inspiring, and it is going to make me cry right now, so I'm going to stop talking. But I just love you, and I'm so grateful for you, and so is Abby. And I just wish that your house was next door and there was a tunnel underneath, so we could just look at each other from the tunnel.
Through the glass. I would do that.
Yes, I know you would. I know you would. And don't forget to do whatever you have to do to tape this, because I want people are dying to see you.
Oh yeah.
And I want to put this on my things.
We're gonna have it. I'm gonna screen record it. It's gonna be great.
Okay. I love you.
I love you. We should do a part 2. Guys, I think we should book club this, and we'll do a day where we take questions, and then we'll do this again. Maybe we'll give everyone like a week or 2 to start reading, and then we'll just do it again.
Oh my God,
and we can pretend, we can sit in different parts of our houses and pretend like we're in another city on your book tour.
Yes, and I'll wear my other overalls.
Okay, great. I'll wear my other boy sweater.
Okay, great.
I love you.
I love you so much. As soon as this damn thing is over, we're coming to you.
Yeah, we'll just be together.
Okay. I love you. Take care of those pups. Mwah.
Mama.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.